Today's show is so good.
But number one, I've never seen an intro like that.
It is my hope and desire that not only will episode 30 still be fun, but episode 300 will be even more fun. You were made for something great, so go and be awesome.
Ten seconds remaining.
Hello, and welcome to the show. My name is Renee Hastings, and I am your host of Renee Speaks. Y'all, this episode is brought to you by Executive Help Now and powered by Livestream Editors. At Executive Help Now, we're all about simplifying your business so you can focus on what really matters. From streamlining operations and managing your back office to producing podcast shows and keeping everything organized, our team is here to help you thrive. So if you're ready to make your life just a little bit easier, hit us up at www.executivehelpnow.org. Y'all, today's guest is Jeremy Neilson, and he is a pioneer in the SPV space and co-founder of Sally, a platform simplifying private investment infrastructure. As founding CEO of Assure, he helped scale one of the world's largest SPV platforms, overseeing billions in transactions. Today, Jeremy builds tools that make private investing more efficient, transparent, and accessible for founders and investors. So put your hands together for Jeremy Neilson. Hello.
Hi there.
Hey, Jeremy, how's it going?
It's going good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We are super excited to have you here. I know that many of us as business owners get into this space, not only just to build the businesses that we have, but hopefully one day to build them to such a level that we can exit them and invest in others. So I'm super excited that you are here to kind of help us all navigate that space and what it could really look like. Like it could truly be a reality for each one of us because we're business owners and that's what we do. We run businesses and maybe one day eventually own other businesses. So I'm so excited that you were here to kind of break that down for us and help us to understand what it looks like in real life.
Sure.
But before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about Jeremy Neilson? You didn't grow up and come out of the womb in the SPV space. How did we get here?
Sure. Yes. SPV is pretty nichey, but it's kind of one of those things that's behind the scenes. It's pretty ubiquitous behind the scenes. You don't quite know that it's there, but it is. So the journey went this way. Basically, went to college, was hoping to do some cool things with my career, big dreams and hopes, and I wanted to be able to have that toolkit. So I went to law school after doing an undergrad at Brigham Young University. But as I went to law school, and even before I went there, I wasn't convinced I wanted to be a lawyer in a traditional sense. I go into the law office every day. After going to law school for a year, I realized that those inklings were really real, that I didn't want to be a traditional lawyer going into the law firm every day. And why was that? I chalk it up to basically being maybe selfish. I just want to do my own thing. And so I kind of joke and say, I'm just not that interested in someone else's case or business. I'm interested in my own. I wanted to build my own thing. And so I took that law degree and and wanted to create. And so I actually then quickly went to business school. And so I got an MBA, and as I was in the MBA program, I got to join a small group of doing venture capital work and some due diligence around startups. And I really liked the startup scene, and it was the .com era, and got really wrapped up into it and started to think of some ideas of my own. Ultimately, I got a job launching and running the state of Utah's private equity program called the Utah Fund of Funds. So I was able to really get into that space and launch this program and be on the ground level and touch everything and do everything. And ultimately left that and launched Assure. And from that, I was able to kind of start my first business. The Utah Fund of Funds felt very startup-y, but it wasn't mine. It was a state of Utah program. And so I launched this business called Assure, where we were doing some private equity work with some groups. And ultimately, AngelList called me one day, just out of the blue. I was basically I was in my backyard. I was swinging my youngest child on the swing. And the phone rings, and this person's like, "Hey, I'm so-and-so from AngelList." And they said, "Can you figure out how to do funds in bulk?" And that was kind of the way they described SPVs at that time, because SPVs were a thing, like they were a legal construct, but they weren't really a thing yet, right? So that's the way they described it. Can you figure out how to do funds in bulk? I was an entrepreneur. I said yes. I didn't quite know what I was saying yes to, but from my experience, my education, my background, I knew I could figure out whatever they were asking for. So I still remember my cell phone service at my house was terrible. So I actually went out into the middle of the street, and I was standing on a manhole cover. It's kind of like my little platform where I got the best reception. And so I'm standing there talking to the person, and they're like, "How much?" Right. And I'll get back to you, so I basically just said yes. And they said, "Okay, we're going to send you a bunch of deals." So they sent me a bunch of deals, and I just was figuring it out. And I was working 15, 16 hours a day. I was almost sleeping under my desk, trying to figure out all the different pieces. I knew all the pieces, but I didn't have the puzzle. I mean, all the pieces were on the table. I didn't have the puzzle put together. So I was working on those pieces and trying to get them all put together. Eventually, I was successful. I was able to figure out all the pieces in order to create what I termed as the fast, affordable SPV. Before me figuring this out, it was not affordable and extremely slow. You'd go to a law firm and you'd pay tons of money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. It would take you months. So what I created was like a cookie cutter. It was a repeat, very, very affordable, like $10,000 instead of hundreds of thousands. And I could get them done in a matter of days or weeks. And so that's how I got started, where I just was asked to figure it out. I did, and that was the launch of SPVs, and I became the SPV guy.
Wow, that is so incredible. And I say that because we never know who we're talking to when we're out and about, networking, meeting people, getting to know people, because who knows who gave that guy your phone number? Do you know?
I think I do, actually. Someone from my Utah Fund of Funds days, and I was networking and just following up with people. And he had been hanging out with the AngelList people, and they're like, "Hey, we're trying to figure this out." And I'm like, "Well, call Jeremy. He might be able to, help you out." And so, yeah, just very randomish circumstance.
Wow. I mean, and it's so critical. Number one, okay, so a lesson learned that I hear here is that when you are networking, tell people who you are and what you do, so that when they're talking to other people in their network, they'll remember or have a frame of reference to refer them to.
Yeah.
So that's so super important. And I know that's not nearly the topic that we're here to talk about today, but I don't want to let this opportunity slip by because it's so important. when we are talking to people, you don't know who you're talking to, and you don't know who they know, who could one day benefit you. But with a call out of nowhere while you're swinging your child on the swing, and you get a phone call and say, "Hey, can you help us with this?"
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I had a client do a really cool quote from, they said to me one time along the same line, said, be yourself so those people that are looking for you can find you.
oh, I love that.
I like it too.
Be yourself so those looking for you can find you.
Yeah.
Wow. I think that's very profound. And yeah, I love that so much, because that's when we are our own authentic selves, and we basically, like, when you meet me, what you see is what you get. Like, there are no airs, there's no fronting, there is no look. If I know, I know. If I don't, you will be the first to know. But I can find out. So authenticity is so important in building a business, whatever it is that you're doing, trying to raise money, trying to find investors. Be yourself. Don't try to make yourself something that you're not, because as my dad would say, the proof is in the pudding, and it's all going to come out in the wash. so, so as you got this opportunity, you figured it out, you're working night and day. How does Sally come into play? So tell us about Sally. Or would it be more appropriate for you to tell us first, for those who may not know, what an SPV is?
Sure.
Then that might help us understand Sally better.
Yeah. So an SPV is a legal construct. So we'll get into the nerdy stuff here, the legal stuff here in a second. But a really good example would be if you want to invest into a private asset, and anything, or basically everything's a private asset. If it's not on the stock market, it's a private asset. Real estate, a startup company. We've got clients that film, like they're going to do a movie and they need people to invest in the movie. Oil and gas, airplane, like whatever it is that you want to invest into for some sort of return, that's a private asset. So if you had something that you came upon, so I'll just give an example of a startup company. So let's say that you're really into something, let's say farming, right? So you're really into farming, and you do some farming on the side. And one day you come across this person who's like, I've got this amazing technology that helps with farming, right? Maybe it's rain, maybe it's soil, maybe it's planting, whatever it is. And you're like, that is amazing. I think that is really going to be helpful for me and for millions of others. And so you have a group of other people that like farming as well, and you go and tell them about this amazing technology from this entrepreneur that you visited with. And many of them are like, that is super cool. Maybe we should invest, right? So you go back to the CEO, go, I really have been thinking about your technology, and I've talked to some friends, and we would love to invest. And the CEO says, I would love for you to invest. I'm actually raising some money right now. But the CEO says, but in order for me to keep my cap table clean and just to manage my workload, I'm not going to let anybody invest unless you invest $100,000 or more. And so you're like, well, shoot, I only have $10,000 or $5,000. But you and all your friends together would equal $10,000 or $100,000. So in that case, you do an SPV. So you aggregate everybody into an SPV. So everyone throws in their $5, $10, $15, $20,000, and it totals $100,000. Now, as a group, you can now get that investment into this agricultural technology company that you love. So in order to do that SPV, you have to go and set up a legal entity. It's a Delaware LLC, and you need to sign some documents. You need to, sometimes do a background check on different people that are joining. You need to maybe open a bank account. You need an EIN number. You need to do security filings. You need to do taxes now. So if you're crazy wealthy and you can just write $100,000 checks, it's usually easier to just write a $100,000 check. But if you're going to aggregate money to invest into private assets, you need to do an SPV. And to do an SPV, and I've talked about all those pieces, right? I figured out all those pieces. That's entity creation and document signing and bank account and EIN number and security filings and taxes and distributions and all those other things. And so that's what an SPV is. And that's what I figured out, were all those pieces that go together.
Wow. That I love how you made the correlation between something that we like literally could do tomorrow. Like we, depending on the circles we roll in, I guess, you might become aware of different opportunities. People call them opportunities. And so when I didn't realize that when these opportunities were being presented to, in my case, that there was this SPV that was created to get all these different people together to become partners in this project as they pool their money together to make be an investor in this particular business. So I love how you broke that down, because I always wondered, like, so if I'm putting in $1,000 and they're putting in $1,000 and someone else is putting in, who's keeping track of all these thousands of dollars? Right. And how do I know how much of that investment is actually mine once it gets in, and all of the things? So you're saying that with the SPV, you not only get set up in an organized way so that all of those people are vetted, that you're doing business with, that it's a tool to be able to do your due diligence to make sure that you're not getting involved in something shady or, something like that. Is that correct? Does it even go to that extent?
It can, but the SPV really is, it's a structure. So it's a vehicle, right? So you can add those types of functionality and workflows if you'd like, but at the very core nature of it, it's about aggregating people into an investment so that you can aggregate the money to get a larger pool in order to invest. And what's one of the great things about SPVs, there's a long list, but you described like $1,000. So you do have to be an accredited investor in order to participate in these, but you can be an accredited investor and not have too much excess money laying around the house, right? But you would like to participate, you'd like to get started, you'd like to support. So let's say you only have $1,000 or $5,000 for the year and you want to do 5 investments. If you were to try to get access to a company or some sort of project, real estate or otherwise, no one's going to take $1,000 just loose, right? They're going to say, you got to get that bigger. You got to aggregate that. And so an SPV gives you that chance where in the years past, you just were out of luck. You just didn't get the chance to participate. And you learn so much by investing, even in the public stock market, right? Just putting in a few dollars and now you're interested, you're vested, you're paying attention, you're following. And so with private asset investing, the same thing, real estate, startup companies, or anything else. Once you put in that $1,000, you really get this huge education of learning, following, educating yourself. And without that $1,000 in, you don't start that journey. And so I love that the SPV structure gives so many people that option that just wasn't there in the past.
Right. Now, is there a structure or a legal or you said SPV is a structure, a legal structure. But it's only for accredited investors. Is there such a thing for people who are not accredited investors, but maybe my friend next door?
Yeah, there are out there. The SEC, the federal government, has been working on those options. It's called a Reg CF deal. And they're not really SPVs. So they kind of look and act like them, but they've put a lot of guardrails and regulatory framework around it. I don't personally deal with those, but there are groups like Republic. So if you went to republic.co, they have a menu, if you will, of opportunities. And so if you're a non-accredited investor, you can invest and put in money. And that's, again, similar experience, similar education. So that is out there, but that's not something that I do.
Okay, got you. Well, yeah, I know it's pretty random. Those are the thoughts that are going through my head as you're talking. Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing with us that resource, republic.io, for those that are not accredited investors who do have an interest in being a private investor in something, but don't know the exact avenue or way to go to do that so that their money can benefit others, and even in a small way.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I definitely appreciate that. So now we can get to Sally. So now that we understand what an SPV is and how it's a way to aggregate funds from accredited investors in order to do a deal, become a private investor in a project or real estate deal or whatever it is that they want to invest in, farming equipment, whatever, to build a business and become like joint investors, I guess is one of the ways that they could be termed. You founded Sally, or co-founded Sally. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So Sally is software. And perhaps before I tell about Sally, I maybe finish the journey from my prior story. So Angelus called and I figured it out. And that business was Assure. And what we did there was we did it manually. And because, again, right, just trying to figure it out, putting the pieces together. And so we did most things manually. And so that just meant like faxing. I received people's subscription agreements in the mail that they hand filled out. We got checks in the mail. I walked into the bank, often to deposit checks, set up accounts, and send out money. Just everything was paper based and human manual labor. And so as we figured it out and figured out all the puzzle pieces, we then started to try to build some technology around it. Build a little bit of here, build a little bit of there. And over the years, just building tech and working on the business, really got the idea that technology could really help and change this product, bring the cost down even further and move it along even faster. And so over the years, I've been just building around this topic or this product in the SPV world. And so Assure we put aside a few years ago, and I just really spent all my time on Sally. And so Sally is software. It is the automation. It is a computer doing what we used to do with the humans inside the computer. So Sally is this complete, feature-rich, function-rich, deep modules that do all the steps, all the legal, tax, accounting, admin, compliance, and banking for SPVs. And so it's just got everything in there, and it's this beautiful working machine of just automation and features to do SPVs.
Wow. And we know technology is so important, and it definitely is a game changer in any business. So how would you say, or did scaling Assure shape your perspective on private investing and contribute to what eventually became Sally?
Yeah, absolutely. With Assure, we would become overwhelmed often. It's extremely difficult to properly staff because you just didn't know what might come in, right? You don't know that your clients have an opportunity, a real estate project, a startup company, or amazing farm technology that they found. And so you would just kind of get overwhelmed and overloaded with requests and work. And then when that happens, you would actually stop using your technology. You would do things more manually. You would just kind of throw more bodies at it. And then that would just cause more workflows and more work. And so it just was really difficult to run efficiently SPVs with just human human labor. There just really needed to be a kind of a four walls of a construct to have all things inside. And the term we would use would be the source of truth. And it's important for the source of truth because you onboard all these investors, all these friends and individuals that are interested, and now they are expecting for you to take care of it. And taking care of it means proper filings, correct taxes, timely taxes, correct distributions, timely distribution. And if all your records are messy or wrong or conflicting or in multiple places, now you just are slowing down, you're making mistakes, people are upset. And so that source of truth where it's like, I know where to go to find the answer, not I've got to go to 5 places and I got to reconcile and maybe I can't figure it out. Now I got to go talk to other humans and now I got to keep digging. Right. And that's just a terrible work environment. It's a terrible product and experience for everybody. So having that 4 walls, that source of truth, of having that platform where you have all the features and functions, everything's inside and you don't have to leave that platform. That's the beautiful thing of Sally. And that's only came about after doing thousands of SPVs manually.
Right. Oh, I can just imagine the labor involved in keeping track of all of that manually. Like, what did you have, like major checklists? Everyone had to check a box that everything, that part was done. So now we can go to that part, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, that's a lot of opportunity for, like you said, mistakes and miscommunication and just really extending the due diligence process because of it being so manual. So Sally sounds like a godsend.
And so having done the experience of doing it manually and now using Sally, I don't know if other people do this, but I kind of sit there and just geek out. I stare at the screen and be like, this is amazing. It's working. It's doing all the stuff and I don't have to do anything. And I'm just sitting here and, and I'm not needed. And this is beautiful. And just having the prior experience of always having to be involved in touching and fixing and whatnot. It's, the efficiency is off the charts, probably at least a 10, perhaps more, 10-to-1 ratio of efficiency improvements.
Wow. And so where then did you end up putting all that newfound time that you have on your hands now that you have Sally?
Right. Marketing, podcast, talking to you.
Oh, I love it. So Jeremy, what major shifts have you seen in private investment infrastructure? So I know that Sally has been a game changer. What other major shifts have you seen?
I would say the shifts are just the comfort and knowledge of them. So, in the past, people didn't know that they could participate. So the major shift is just participation, comfort level, knowledge that you can gain access. And so it just continues to grow. As it grows, then what happens is people then challenge or try or attempt or, kind of push the product. And what we're seeing today is a lot more liquidity in private asset investing. So typically there's no liquidity in private asset investing until the company goes public or the real estate project sells or something like that. But with SPVs, we're seeing a large movement of people kind of selling their LLC membership interests. So this may sound a little techie, but if you were one of those investors into that farm technology, and let's say that farm technology got very popular and it became $1 billion valued company, and when you invested, the valuation was 10 million. So your $10,000 investment, I'm just going to pull math out of the air, I'm not doing anything, is now worth 100,000, let's say. And you're like, this has been a fun ride, but I would like to cash out. Maybe that farm technology goes to 10 billion, 100 billion, right? But you're ready to cash out. Well, you can sell your seat to somebody else without having to go to that company or to that CEO or something like that. And so now that's where we're seeing now is this like liquidity option that we didn't have in the past. So that's really where I'm seeing the coolness, if you will, of SPVs and that structure.
Wow. So that makes me think when you talk about selling seats, I'm a football fan, and so it makes me think about those seats that you have to buy at the stadium that they're like yours for life because you buy them. Is that a far reach?
Yeah, well, almost like a lifetime subscription to the stadium, right? And this is your seat C5, and you've bought it. And but let's say the team is really great, and the city's grown, and you paid $10,000 for that football seat, and maybe you've moved, right? So you're in a new city. You're not going to go to those games anymore. Someone says, "I'll pay $100,000 for that seat," right? So in a similar manner, that's exactly what it is like.
Wow. That is really exciting to know that you can make an initial investment in something at some low rate, like a buy rate, and then but hold on to it and sell it later to somebody else.
Yeah.
And so once you sell it though, then you lose, you're no longer the owner of the seat. Right. Someone else gets your seat.
Yep.
Got you. So that is really interesting. And as you were talking, gosh, I had a thought that popped in my head in terms of how this whole industry is just shifting and evolving. The volume of people getting in with it being so easy now. Is that are SPVs evolving, like for venture funds and angel investors, the number of them increasing because of the ease of entry now?
Yeah, they are increasing. Just each year they grow in popularity or knowledge. And also another thing that's happened is we talked about this experience of you putting in $1,000. And so you've put in $1,000, let's say you've done that 5 or 8 or 10 times, and now you really like it. Mm-hmm. And so that's happening over, hundreds of thousands of people and groups, and they're really liking what we would call single asset or, being part of making the decision. Traditionally, you're buying into a basket, a blind pool, like a mutual fund. You may know all the companies in there, but you're just kind of like giving your money to a mutual fund manager and say, make me rich, right? Do your thing.
Right.
But once you start picking individual stocks, you're like, I like Walmart, I like Coca-Cola, I like Tesla, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe that mutual fund investment's not as interesting because you've really enjoyed doing due diligence. You really enjoyed picking a stock and really following it. It's the same thing with private asset, right? As you start to make those investments, it gets more exciting, more fun, more interesting. And so that kind of that feeling is really permeating throughout the investing community, the ecosystem of, I want to make a choice. I want to pick. I want to go into SpaceX, right? I think that's amazing. I would like a little bit of SpaceX. Mm-hmm. AI is amazing. I would like a little OpenAI or this amazing startup from this farm CEO that I met, right? So that's really growing, is this feeling and desire to make decisions and be a part of something that is not just some general faceless blind pool product.
Right. You know what else it reminds me of is I don't know if you remember back in the day, I may be aging myself here, but there was this company called Buy and Hold. And with this, it's a way to start investing. But it was a way to buy portions of stocks.
Okay. Yeah.
And with your small investment, maybe it was $100 a month or $200, whatever. It's something small. It's something actually my son and I used when he started investing when he was 13. But anyway, so it was really small. but it was a way to have have a piece, be a part of this major corporation with our small piece of investment. So that almost sounds like the SPVs are somewhat of a way to do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So now you though, I'm talking small pennies. You manage billions of transactions, and throughout your career, building through from the Angel List to Assure through to Sally. What lessons from managing these billions in transactions guide your work, on with Sally today?
Yeah. It's really about back to that source of truth, which is transparency, cleanness, correctness. When it gets messy, dirty, or wrong, it's extremely stressful, right? This is people's money. They've entrusted it. They expect you to take care of it. And never had that, lose people's money or do things necessarily wrong, but you were just like a lot of work and stress around it. So the easier you can make that, where you help people feel safe, is extremely valuable to them, to the ecosystem, to the product. And so over the years of doing this, that's what I would say is one of the big driving forces, or one of those things that's always kind of burning inside me, which is this going to make it easier, cleaner, more transparent, help users, investors, organizers feel safe? Like, this is it. Source
Right.
of truth.
Mhm.
Everything's great.
Right. So that's really critical. So how then do you design systems that improve that transparency and make people feel safe? As they access the you know, private investing opportunities.
Yeah. I think the most important thing is that everything's on platform. So inside the four walls, the technology, the database, you can capture all the clicks, all the inputs, all the information. The issue becomes is when you have to go off platform. What I mean by that is if a feature isn't available, if a function's not available, and you're like, well, I really want to allow somebody to do this. I'll just give a quick example. Would be like maybe a side letter where when you do your SPV, you say, hey, everybody, I need to pay for the software. I need a few dollars here. So everyone's going to pay 2%, right? I'm going to take 2% off the top. But someone comes in and says, look, I have 100,000. I could go direct, but I like the idea of going into this SPV, but I don't want to pay the 2%. I want to pay 1%, right? I know I need to help, but I'm bringing such a large check. I want a discount. And you're like, sure, absolutely, right? I wasn't expecting such a big check to come in. My math was, on a smaller raise. So sure, I'll give you a discount, right? So if you can't do that in the system, then you go off platform. And now you've got another record over here off the software of this little side deal. And so when it comes time to calculate math, when it's time to calculate capital account statements, when it's time to do taxes, when it's time to do distributions, when it's time to do anything, it's not in the system.
Right.
And now you have to track things in two different places. Now it gets dirty, right? It gets messy, gets scary. And so the system has to have all the features and functions in the four walls. That's how you keep things clean.
Right. I love how you just broke that down, because it's so easy as we're working with different business owners, and there is a source of truth, but then something else outside of the source of truth, also plays a role or is a factor in the final piece of information that's being put together. I get that clearly. I understand that very well, how that convolutes things. It makes everything so messy. So when you start to see things like that happening, do you use them as like opportunities for additional enhancements or add-ons to the Sally platform?
Yes, but I did 9,000 SPVs with Assure, so I've I've seen everything, done everything. So there's nothing that I did not anticipate or didn't think was going to happen, right? So the software is basically complete. I wouldn't say 100%. There's always something that you're, an edge case or something out there, but so far I haven't come across any of those situations. But the other thing is being very thoughtful about the architecture of the software, which would allow you to build or add features or tweak features very, very quickly, is also very important, so that you can say, I don't have that today, but I can have it to you in 1 week or 2 weeks or next month or even tomorrow. Extremely valuable, because then people know that you have the system that is built correctly, architectured amazingly, so that you can continue to grow and touch those other edge cases that you may not have anticipated, or perhaps you just thought, I'm never going to see that, but all of a sudden it pops up and you're able to throw that into the software.
Right. That's awesome. To have that flexibility is so crucial. So what principles guide you when you're building tools that help others scale smarter?
Oh, good question. For me, it's all about, for my world, for my experiences, it was really about, I kind of touched on a moment ago, it's really about building the right architecture that I can move quickly, so that when I do need to scale or want to scale or have a scaling, friction point, that I can add that to the software. So there's many things where I'll say, I'm going to do that manually a couple times. I want to touch it. I want to really experience it manually. And then I'm going to go put it into the software. And so these would not be those things that need to be in the four walls of the system. And by having the right architecture and structure that I can go and add those things quickly, gives me the opportunity to not be afraid to say yes, not afraid to try something manually, because I know I can add those features and functions very, very quickly. It's not a 6-month build. It's not in 2 years or something like that. I can work that in the next couple of weeks and get that out within 30 days. And for me, that's been very, very important, and will continue to be important for me and my desire and ability and need to scale.
Right. That's someone as in being able to do things in real time, or as quick as in real time as possible, especially with people's expectations of turnaround time changing so drastically, especially with the advent of AI, or as it's becoming more prevalent in everything that we do. It seems like turnaround times, if you can't get it done in 2 minutes, what do you mean you can't get it done in 2 minutes? know, it's I think it's really changing the expectation for turnaround time. So when you have a platform that you can work out manually first, and then see how it fits into the bigger picture within the structure and framework of the platform, and actually be able to roll it out quickly, is super, super fantastic.
Yeah. Also, does anybody else need it? Is this a one-time thing, or is this going to be a 100-time thing? And so, doing a few things manually also helps me save my resources, right? So is this a scalability issue, or is this a one-time, let me just help out, add value situation?
Right, exactly. And then if it comes up again, you're like, oh, maybe we might need to do something a little different here, because I don't want to have to do this again. So then, Jeremy, how do you then balance innovation with investor confidence in such complex deals?
Yeah, investors really just want it to be straightforward. So there is a lot of complexity behind the screen, if you will. And so my job, and what I've really worked hard at, is making it feel very simple, very smooth. The frustrating part, or the worst thing, is when an investor says, I'm interested, I want to put some money in, but I just can't get through the flow. I can't understand the questions. I can't figure out how to upload something. And so my job, what I've worked really hard at, is to make that flow as simple and as clean as possible so the complexity is invisible. And that's really been part of that manual process that we did, was all that testing of how do we do this, and what would be a great flow here, and how do we answer these questions. And so for me, it's really about taking the complexity and making it look easy. The downside about that, I'll tell you that, the downside of that is that competitors think, oh, this is super easy. I can do this. I can build this. And so you sometimes will get a number of people trying to step into your space, but over time, the complexity actually helps you win. And I describe it, an SPV, a bit like an iceberg, right? The top piece that's poking out of the water, that's kind of like the front end. And let me ask some questions and making it really smooth and easy. But the actuality is the complexity is under the water of all the legal, tax, accounting, admin, compliance, banking. And my job is to make that top piece basically, is, I don't know, attractive. I don't know, smaller. Not quite sure, but maybe making the underwater piece, even more invisible to the users.
Right. And that makes sense, because when someone looks at your platform, you definitely want it to have such a easy user interface that, all they do is click, 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 fill in some blanks, complete the information. And then once that gets done, it goes, psh, and and then the flood waters just kind of the what's under the water starts to unfold and unpack. And it's what's underneath. If people are trying to compare apples and apples, if they don't see all what's underneath, it's hard for them. They're like, oh, they do this. Okay, then this competitor must do the same thing. But no, you're like, once this happens, we do this and this and this and this and this and this. So really, do you have competition? I mean, maybe you do, but I'm not sure everyone can do all the things that you're doing.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I'm the best there's ever been. Sally's the greatest.
Of course. And I mean that like LPPS. So I see that we're coming down to almost the close of the show, and I definitely want to get people who have an interest in maybe learning more about SPVs and how they might become associated with them or take part in them. Where would you suggest they go for basic SPV education and understanding, or is it something that comes with being a part of a particular industry?
Yeah. Educated a lot of people over the years. I have a YouTube channel called All Things SPVs, and that channel is meant to educate people on how to do SPVs. So I basically, through the videos, and I haven't completed every video that I want to, but I basically walk users through actually doing it manually. So if you wanted to do it manually, here are the documents. You wanted to do it manually, here's the website, right? Here's the forms, all that stuff. So so All Things SPVs is the YouTube channel, and then you can learn from that, right? You could do a demo with me for the Sally software. So you go to the Sally software, I can show you that and kind of learn from that as well. But ultimately, there's not too much out there on the education side. There's plenty of stuff out there. There's a website called SPV Dictionary that's out there. It gives you all the terms and whatnot. And so there's some stuff out there, but actually investing into an SPV, just taking $1,000, investing into an SPV, that gives you a big education as well. I kind of use the analogy of if you invest in a venture fund, you're really kind of like the shortest student in a class full of giants, right? It's really difficult to see, to learn, to touch, to feel. You do an SPV, it's like it's a PhD. Like you're there, you've invested, you've done some due diligence, you're part of it. I'd probably say investing is maybe like a bachelor's, but if you ran an SPV, if you became the organizer of an SPV and you invited people, that's the PhD, right? Where you really learn a lot about private asset and investing. So that's where I would point people.
So what does it take to be someone who runs an SPV?
So anybody can run an SPV. That's another really interesting and cool thing about the security laws in America. You have to be accredited to invest, but you do not have to be accredited to run an SPV.
What?
So yeah. So let's say take myself. Let's say I'm not accredited. I'm a college student. I'm a professional somewhere, but I really love something. I'm very passionate about something.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to find deals and you have to find accredited investors. So if you're somebody that can find great deal flow and you can find accredited investors that trust you and believe that you found great opportunities, then you can sign up through me with some Sally software and invite people to your opportunities and click all the buttons and get all the work done. And then you can actually get a carry afterwards, right? If you have a great deal and there's a great exit in the future, you could get some carry on the back end. And so, yeah, anybody can be an organizer of an SPV.
Wow. And that would actually be like the sponsor of a deal that you're putting together.
Yep. Sponsor, organizer, syndicator, manager, GP, they're all the same word. They all describe the same function.
Wow. That is amazing to me. My mind is kind of blown right now. That just any old body, any Joe Schmo can say, hey, I'm an organizer of this SPV.
I had a client that was a college student, and she through her work and her whatever, she became an organizer, started organizing $1 million deals, and people were putting in their money and she was getting the carry.
Wow. But when you say carry, that's kind of like a commission for a real estate agent.
It's the profit sharing after it sells. So if you did real estate and you bought an apartment complex and you refurbished it, or you were getting rents, right? You're getting some piece of the profit. So if you bought $1 million real estate project, you refurbished it and sold it for $2 million, you would get a piece of that extra $1 million. So you send $1 million back to all your investors. They're now made whole. And now you got an extra $1 million to distribute. You could take 10%, 20% of that, put it in your pocket as your carry, as your profit sharing of organizing and putting the deal together.
Right. Got you. And there's a guest that we have, because of course it is. This is amazing knowledge for someone just getting into this stuff. I agree with you 100%. Jeremy, you have made it so easy. So easy. I mean, I love how you have just broken down something so complex to where anyone can truly understand and apply it to their own lives. So good. So good. Thank you. And Ryan said, I never knew this existed. Very intriguing stuff. Very intriguing. So
I said kind of niche. It's kind of behind the scenes. It's kind of the fabric of private companies and private assets and real estate. It's there. You just don't really kind of know that it's there. You just move through life, right? It's kind of one of those things that's powering a lot of stuff. And until you stop to pay attention or hear about it, you don't really realize it. But now maybe all the listeners will start to see stuff and people be like, hey, you want to do a deal? You'd be like, is it an SPV ?
Right. Yeah. I love that. We're learning all new language, and now we know how to respond to those deals, those opportunities. I put them in air quotes. Yeah. Opportunities that come our way. I don't know how I got on this list, but every other week somebody's sending me an opportunity.
Yeah.
But I love it though, because you never know what might be the great one that really is the real deal. So I'm always open to looking. So maybe that's why they keep sending them. So Jeremy, as we get ready to close out, if nobody remembers a single thing today, well, first of all, tell us how to reach you so we can stay in touch, and then tell us what you want us to remember from today's show.
Yeah. So you can just go to sally.co. There's tons of links on there for demos. If you want to learn more about Sally or even chat about SPVs a little bit more, you can just go and hook up with me through that. You can go to LinkedIn as well. I'm happy to connect with anybody. Jeremy Neilson is the LinkedIn profile. What do I want people to remember? I'm going to go back to what we talked about earlier, that be yourself so that people that are looking for you can find you.
I love that. Jeremy, you were made for something great. So go and be awesome.
Thank you.